what happened in New York City in 1992? Around this time, the crack epidemic was in full swing in America. Poor neighborhoods like Brownsville and East New York felt it the most. There were 2,154 murders in 1992 alone, and 636,000-ish violent crimes. Crime was skyrocketing. And in 1992, Bill Bratton happened. Bill Bratton was appointed police chief by this guy, Rudy Giuliani, a man of perhaps 20% teeth. Giuliani and Bratton were both adherents to a particular crime-fighting strategy, or a theory of crime fighting called the broken windows theory of crime fighting. It was proposed by two criminologists called James Wilson and George Kelling. And if you can read this at the bottom, it says, a criminological theory of the norm-setting and signaling effect of urban disorder and vandalism on additional crime and antisocial behavior. Now, at this point in the 90s, the early 90s, crime had been rising, like I said, for a long time. And you couldn't go out on the street in these poor neighborhoods. There were no old people sitting on their porch. There were no kids playing in the street. It was a mess. And the point of the broken windows theory of crime fighting, which they both adhered to, was that you would police the small crimes. You would go after broken windows, exactly like this, in a neighborhood, by changing the environment that people live in, that criminals also, as normal people, wander around and see every single day. By going after the petty crimes, you would create an environment where larger crimes, such as murder or shootings, were completely untolerated. And just think about that for a minute. If you're a criminal, imagine for a second, and you're wandering along the street, and you see broken windows everywhere, and you see some public urination, and you see a couple of people smoking a joint on the corner, then this is an atmosphere where you feel comfortable in committing exactly those kind of crimes, everybody else is doing it, and larger crimes too. But the opposite is also true. If you're a potential criminal and walking through a neighborhood, and it's neat, it's tidy, there's no broken windows, kids are outside playing on their cycling in the street, and some people are playing hockey, then you feel like this is not the kind of place that I can commit a crime. Everybody is going to turn against me if I do that. And it worked. Rudy Giuliani gave the police the power to go after all the small crimes, everything they could think of. The police were given power to force people to fix their broken windows if they had them, and fine them if they refused to. And then the police would forcibly fix those broken windows themselves. They went after the squeegee guys, the guys who come up to your car at the traffic lights and wash your windscreen down and try to charge you $1. They went after minor infractions of cannabis, every single kind of petty crime they could think of. The New York subway was scrubbed clean of graffiti. Subway trains weren't allowed to leave and go on a normal route if there was any graffiti on them. Crime fell off a precipice in New York City after this. In 1995, there were 770 murders. I mean, that's 2/3 of murders gone in just a couple of years. And violent crime itself also dropped to 360-ish thousand crimes a year. Now, I love that story because it shows you how just fixing small, tiny things can have such a big impact on everything you see and everything you do. And this is part of my problem space, and it's part of your problem space too. We all live in the same society. And I like that society, and I like working in that society. I want to go after small crimes as well. Now, a while back, I was given an opportunity to create a security department, like I'm sure many of you have been a part of, where I work. And to do that from the beginning, you need to know what your problem space is. And Rudy Giuliani is not in my problem space, thank goodness. But to figure out what I was trying to protect, what I'm trying to defend, it's very useful to use a tool called threat modeling. And for my mother, who's watching at home, we're going to do a little threat modeling 101. I'm sure you guys know what it is about, but it's essentially a way to visualize assets that you own or want to protect, the threat actors who are trying to get a hold of those assets, and routes through which they may take in order to get to those assets. And ideally, in the middle, a bunch of protections and mitigations that you've put in place so that those routes are nullified. Now, my company is like most organizations we face threats from CEO fraud, where somebody will try and email our finance department pretending to be the CEO, and they'll try and convince them to wire a sizable portion of our company's funds to a bank account in China somewhere. We have assets online. We're online, so we're constantly under the threat of DDoS, or just people trying to break into our applications. And we don't know what's going to happen. We have no idea who is going to be doing this. We have some idea. It's probably this guy. So this is one of our threat actors. Maybe somebody who runs a DDoS for hire website and rents it out, and then they can try and take us offline, and then we will give them a bunch of money in order to stop that from happening. We don't hold personally identifiable information, which is a huge relief for me, because that's a huge pain. But this guy doesn't know that, and he doesn't care. So we have to protect against, as if we were containing PII as well. Now, it's easy to talk about threat modeling. It's more difficult to visualize it, so we should probably look at a real-life, real-world example of threat modeling. Batman's threat model. Now you can see here on the left, you've got all the assets he wants to protect, the Batcave, Alfred, emails, texts. And then on the right, all the threat actors, you've got the police, the Joker, journalists. And in the middle, all of the mitigations that Batman is taking to make sure that Alfred does not get compromised by the Joker. Now I've got our version of our threat model. It's a little sparse. It's not as good as the Batman one. But we still have the same kind of thing. We've got a bunch of money in our corporate bank account, I hope. I've got servers, code, a lot of code. And we've got these guys on the other side who are trying to break into our servers, steal our code, get our finance department or business to wire a lot of money to Russia or China or North Korea. And in the middle, we've got the kind of stuff you would have in most large organizations. We've got sender policy frameworks in place so that we know who emails come from. We have audits, so many audits. We have patches and firewalls for our code. And this, when we performed the original threat modeling, it's me and one other guy at the back there, we realized that actually we have two substrates, and we're only dealing with one. We have metal here, and we have meat. Patching servers can be relatively easy. Maybe you have a hacky bash script, or you have an artisanally crafted Ansible job by a guy with glasses like mine and a beard. But how do you patch a human? So that's what we figured we needed to do. We have to start patching our humans. We all have to start patching our humans. This is part of all of our problem spaces. Unless you run entirely on metal, and I don't see many cyborgs, but I'm willing to admit you into my life. So we had a brief from our head of, our boss, basically. Or rather, we had a conference talk. It's a conference talk by Rich Smith, who's the director of security at Etsy. And it's called Crafting an Effective Security Organization. And it is a fantastic talk. I would highly recommend you go and watch this talk later on in the bath or on the toilet or wherever. It's absolutely amazing. And when this other guy and I were creating this department, we both watched the talk, or at least we both said we watched the talk. And some of us 3 or 4 times whilst taking notes. And I'm going to show you, we don't have time for the 45 minutes here, but I'm going to show you the 5 main lessons we took away from this talk. This is my favorite Russian proverb. I'm sure you all have your favorites, but this one is mine. This was popularized by Ronald Reagan when he was talking to Gorbachev whilst they were trying to enable nuclear disarmament. And I apologize to Anatoly, I'm going to murder the pronunciation now. Dovriyai, no proveryai. Trust, but verify. Give people in your organization trust as a default position. But put in place metrics that can help them catch when they fail. And never call it failure. We make those metrics available to everyone. But we put in place code reviews, we have a bunch of testers, and they make sure that what is said is true, but we trust them by default. If it moves, you should be graphing it. We have a bunch of security metrics, and they're available to all the people in our organization. Maybe if you're deploying some kind of code, you feel it could be a little bit better, but the testers say it's fine, and you deploy it, it goes out to production, and then it's not fine. Perhaps our metrics can help you catch that as soon as possible, at the earliest possible point. And that's very important. We want to give feedback to everyone. And feedback is crucial. So if it does move, you should probably be graphing it. And when things do go wrong in production, which they will, somebody will bring down production. It's going to happen. It's happened every single place I've ever been at. It's going to happen at every single place I'm ever going to be at. Then there is no blame. There is no, what did you call it, deferred judgment? Deferred responsibility. There is no deferred responsibility. It is everybody's problem now when production goes down. And once it's back up and you're all like, you've removed the sweats of buckets, then run blameless postmortems. Make sure you know why it happened, put in place controls, checks, balances to make sure it doesn't happen again. Now, I'd highly recommend an exercise called the 5 whys for this. And you get everybody from testers, developers, product owners, development leads. The CTO should be in there. The CISO should be in there. Everybody has to buy into this. And you go into a room and you keep asking the question, why? Until you figure out what the exact source of the problem was. And then you fix that problem. And you may, if you start doing this, you'll do a lot of them at the beginning. But as you put in more checks and balances, the frequency will be reduced. Security cannot be a blocker. No is a finite resource. Use it only when you must. Our organization is about shipping code fast, getting it into production. We have to do it, we want to do it, and we need to do it. And I think we've probably all worked in an organization with a perhaps abrasive individual in the security team, it might be fair to say. I think perhaps once I was that individual, and you have to let people ship. If you get in the way of people, they're going to work around you. And You will know that you're a blocker if you're the last person to hear about something hit in production. Because why tell you? You're just going to say no. Run a bug bounty. If you're an internet-facing company, you're already getting a pen test. If you run a bug bounty, you actually get the report too. They're phenomenal value for money. Like I said, don't hire assholes. My boss made that mistake with me, but I'm getting better now. But that one abrasive individual is all it takes. Maybe they call themselves a 10Xer or something like that. It's just another way of sort of dressing up who they really are. And the trust you build as a security organization is like a house of cards. It could be brought down in a second by one bad action by one bad actor. And it will happen. And then you have to start from the ground up. It might be easier the next time to build that trust, but it's not worth it. If you fire that asshole, that would be the best thing you do that year, maybe month. Now, those are the 5 things we took away from the Rich Smith talk. And like I said, it's an excellent talk. But we also looked around our own organization for other ways, other rules to run this department through. And this, I'm sorry, this is probably going to be the most text-heavy slide. Design thinking is a methodology used by designers to solve complex problems and find desirable solutions for clients. Doesn't that sound like InfoSec? Complex problems? We've got loads of complex problems. All of my problems are complex, especially the ones involving meat. Design thinking, for us, the way we implemented it in the product lifecycle is you get everyone involved in something into a room. Get them all there with you. You get testers, you get developers, you get product owners, you get people who are in the finance department, even if they're not going to be using it. You get them into a room, you give them these giant sheets of paper, we have them on rolls, and crayons. It's like the Olympics of brain dumping. You give us 2 minutes and you just sketch. You sketch 2 prototypes in 2 minutes. And then you iterate on those prototypes. And eventually, you iterate and you iterate. And you have a product that somebody's quite thirsty for after maybe a couple of months. And this is fantastic. And we use that when we're trying to come up with solutions for how to enable people to ship easier. There's a really good book by Eric Ries called The Lean Startup. And in that, he talks about a life cycle. Build, measure, learn. And it's just a circular diagram. Every time you build something, put it out there, measure it, and learn. And we started doing that. And the tighter you can get that feedback loop, the quicker you're going to get to a real product that is really useful. And whichever metrics you have, those should be available to everyone. We used A/B testing. And the first few cycles, what we really learned was that we're terrible at A/B testing. But eventually, we got better. But it really brought something into our minds, which was that design too late is merely decoration. Design has to be there from the very beginning of a product. And that is directly applicable to us, because security too late is just blocking and limitation of features. If somebody comes to you and says, we've been working on this project for 4 years, can you just now make it secure? The easiest thing for you to do is to just put some limitations around it. Maybe throw up some passwords or something and put it behind a firewall. But you're not increasing the accessibility of it. You're not increasing the usability of it. You're limiting it. And so we want to be there from the very beginning of every single product. We will come to all of your meetings. We will bring candy to all of your meetings. We will help you do architectural diagrams, even when we only kind of know what we're talking about. We will be there every step of the way, because if we're just shown something at the last minute, as meat, our default reaction is probably going to be just a little bit scared and maybe like, let's put this blocker in place. And we don't want to do that. We want to enable everyone to ship. Now, we took the don't say no part to a bit of an extreme. We figured we would have one no each per year. You're allowed to say no once. I haven't used mine yet, and I don't think this guy has either. So obviously something's working here. If we're promiscuous with our yeses, people are going to come back to us because they know we're going to say yes. They know that when they come to us, they're going to get candy immediately, and they're going to get a yes. And we're going to break our backs to make sure that we can help them. We're going to break our backs to make sure that we can ship something. And we want them to come back again and again and again. Shadow IT it was clarified for me. This thought was always dancing around in my periphery. But it was Dave Lewis at the excellent Security Fest in Gothenburg, just after his talk. Shadow IT tells you what you're not delivering. I love Shadow IT for exactly that reason, because it's my to-do list. Maybe ordering a server, getting the server delivered, getting it racked, provisioning firewall rules. Maybe that takes too long. Somebody just spins up an Amazon instance. Brilliant. We're failing somewhere, and we need to improve. And because we found this Amazon instance that is a huge hole in our organization, nobody's set up any firewall rules, S3 buckets wide open. That's excellent. I want to know about that. And I'm not going to blame the person that does it either. I'm going to give them sweet treats as a reward. Now, we have a bug bounty as well. Bug bounties, just for my mother again, bug bounties are where a company who has stuff they want to protect or stuff they want people to find bugs in, they will open it up to the wider community of hackers like us. And they will say, if you find security bugs in this product, we will give you stone cold cash. We will reward you for your efforts. Where 10 years ago, kids were just breaking into stuff for fun and getting sent down for life in the US. Now, they actually get paid for it. Now, it's on their resume. Now, these people are going into other organizations and creating security products to help detect exactly the kind of attacks that they themselves wrote. Bug bounties are absolutely fantastic. But I work at a business-to-business company, and we are heavily regulated. Getting on board with HackerOne and BugCrowd to the main platforms, it's really easy, except for us. We have to convince our regulators, our company. The company's actually pretty easy, but the regulators are not easy. And then we have to convince our customers and their regulators as well that this is fine. And it's already happening. Like I said, if you're on the internet, you're getting the pen test already. You're just not seeing the report. But regulators can be a little bit slow sometimes, perhaps. And so they're not quite ready, I think, for this yet. But we knew we had to have a bug bounty. So this is ours. And it just says, this is the most text, if you fix JIRAs at a security incidents, or you've fixed bugs that we raise, like if we find an XSS or a SQL injection or something, anything like that, if you fix those, we will come and you will get your reward. But we couldn't have a bug bounty for just developers. That's so lame. That's only half of the company in this office in Stockholm. We have offices all around the world, and some of them have 0 developers in. What are they going to get? They're just going to see the other people reaping all the rewards. So we have physical security there as well, asking questions about security that raise awareness. Everybody here lives in a house, I hope. You can just come up to us and say, I saw this door propped open. Give me the stuff. This window's always open or broken. Give me the stuff. Physical security is second nature to everyone in this room. Nobody leaves their house with their door unlocked. This stuff is easy. And it means our business development department, our accountants, our lawyers, all of the lawyers, they can all get in on this action as well. But there's a very important caveat. We don't give you money, we give you sugar. Because sugar is our universal motivator. Sugar is fantastic. Every time somebody comes to my desk, they have a question about this, the conversation opens like this. That's how it starts. Every time somebody reports something, even if it's a minor thing, they get a piece of candy. Candy is absolutely fantastic. I can go to anyone's desk that's just reported something, and I can give them candy, and then instantly the conversation is open to security stuff with an accountant. Brilliant. And when it is, impromptu training is just a second away. I can have an education with someone anytime, anywhere in the company. I don't have to set up a meeting. I have a basket as well, a nice little Easter bunny kind of basket. You'll see it in a minute. We also have a leaderboard as well. We work with sports stuff. And it would be fair to say there's an element of healthy competition at work for a sporting company. Operant conditioning or instrument conditioning. This is a type of learning where the end result of the learning affects how frequently that learning needs to be applied, occurs. It's positive reinforcement. Every time somebody comes to me with a question, no matter how stupid it is, candy, positive reinforcement, please come again. Ask more questions. There are no stupid questions. I'm the stupid one for thinking there might be a stupid question. Operant conditioning keeps people coming back. The more we can positively reinforce that people can come to us, we're approachable, we have outreach, then the more they're going to do it. The more that security is being brought to the forefront of people's minds. And if people are thinking about security all the time whilst you're wandering around in your job, that's an excellent place to be in. You can pay for phishing training, but I guarantee the one thing you will truly learn, other than perhaps the exorbitant cost of phishing training, is that people will get phished. That's the point, though. People want to do their jobs. You get an email, it's got a link in it. Click the link. That's the whole point of a link in an email. That's why it's there. Why wouldn't you click it? And then when people come to us, we give them candy, we explain maybe why you shouldn't, or at least have a healthy skepticism about links in emails from people you don't know. I once showed someone in one of our non-technical departments, after they came to me with an email that looked a bit suspicious. It was malware, but I showed them how to check the email headers in their email client. And they could see these names don't match. This is not truly from this person. We talked about it over a couple of rounds of Werther's Originals and some candy necklaces. And that person now checks email headers from their mother. That human is patched. But people just want to do their job. They want to be enabled to do their job. They want to be trusted. They want to be valued. And so these things are absolutely core for us. through my completely scientific Googling about 10 minutes ago, this is exactly how effective positive reinforcement is. If you browbeat someone into submission, then they're not going to want to come to you again. I wouldn't want to go to that person. I used to be that person, and people didn't come back to me. But if you give them candy, or who knows, money, maybe we should go to money next. But if you give people this reinforcement, this trust by default, then they will come back to you again and again and again. And sometimes it's just for the candy. But that's okay, because I would rather have them come back to me for the candy and no security thing than for them to possibly think that it would not be okay to come to me. And that approachability is key for us. You can't seem like you're unavailable. And you have to have fun with it as well. Sometimes I wear the onesie. Like I said, I do have a basket. And this approachability also ties in with competence as well. Like I said, there are no stupid questions. I'm the stupid one for thinking that you might have a stupid question. If you can't come up to me when I'm dressed like this, when are you going to come up to me? It's not going to be if I'm wearing a suit or something, God forbid. It's not going to be during the middle of an IT incident. If you don't come at this point, I've not done my job properly. And so we took all of these things, all of these lessons, and we started going after the small things. We started going after broken HTTPS certificates. We started going after doors that were left ajar. We started going after windows that were open somehow. They're not supposed to be open. They're not, like, they're locked. I don't know how they got them open. But we have a name for these things. Not competence. These are our broken windows. This is exactly what Bill Bratton and Giuliani went after in New York. All of these broken windows, they were the most important things to us. It created what we thought was an atmosphere of high security in our environment. If you can't see any broken HTTPS certs, you think, yeah, that's good. Like, you don't even see it when it's not there. But if you see suddenly a pop-up box that says, oh, you need to click through this warning, then that's an outlier. That's something that is different and weird. And maybe I should go and talk to Hugo, because he does have that candy. And he's got those candy necklaces, which are pretty good. And we have to do outreach as well. We need to make sure that we're available to people 24/7. Don't tell them I said that, because they'll find me at home. But all the time that we're in the office, we're always available, and sometimes outside of the office too. It could be something as little as getting yourself in front of everyone. I usually go and get the beer at Systembolaget on Fridays. You wheel it back into work, and then I go and give a beer to everyone as well, whilst they're at their desks. They all know who I am. Maybe I'm the beer guy, but I'm also the guy with the candy as well. But does it work? Well, I wouldn't be here if it didn't. I got a couple of slides of things that people have told me at work. Again, more malware. This was somebody in a non-technical department who came to us and was like, just a bit of candy would be good. Because they do misspell things in Swedish in this email. Very important to know if the candy necklaces are in stock or not. As a developer, I want the latest version of the Java JDK in order to have a more secure and efficient JVM. Healthy competition again. This guy wants to be on the list. He wants to make sure that this ticket that he filed, which is not a security ticket, it's just one of the development tickets, but he wants to make sure that he's recognized for this. And he was. He's about mid-table on the bug bounty list. Obviously, we share the bug bounty table with everyone in the organization. There is a copy of it freely available. This is my most favorite ticket that we've had in the last 2 years. This is an understatement. This was terrible. This was a huge hole in my mind. Everything's a huge hole in my mind, though. But this was, as normally happens, it was a development tool that had been started to be used by a couple of developers thinking, oh, that's pretty good. That enables me to do my job. Great, thumbs up. Then other people in the team started using it. And pretty soon the whole team was using it. And then we change teams every so often. People, go off to start new teams. They swap them around. And the tool started going around. It spread like a virus almost. And then lots of people were using it. More than 50% of the developers were using it. Then everyone was using it. And this tool had extremely promiscuous permissions. It allowed people on the network to commit code to production. It still has to go through the normal checks and balances that we have in place. But, business development are also on the network. HR is also on the network. That could be terrible. And so we took that toy away for as small a time as possible and returned it to them in a more secure configuration. Because that tool was helping them do their job. We have to enable them. We cannot stop people from doing their job. That's all they want to do. And if they can't do it, they will work around us until they can. This is my HR manager. If your HR manager is looking for security problems, you're going to have a good time. If your HR manager, this is one person that has points of contact with every single person in your organization. Every single employee has to go through HR. Every single employee has to talk to HR. And if this guy is looking for problems with the doors and it rubs off on just 2 people, that is excellent. All of the people that get interviewed, they all have to speak to this guy as well. And if he talks about looking for doors and problems with them, maybe everybody that comes into your organization, they will start looking for stuff as well. I got this. I'm allowed one slide where I have my employer on. We're a tech company in Stockholm, so we're always hiring if you want to come and join us. But this community, these lessons we learned, I came here 3 years ago, and I had never been to a conference before. I'd never seen conferences before. I knew they existed on YouTube, but the acceptance and the open arms that I was received with were so amazing that I knew that I needed to give something back, which is this talk. But I would highly encourage everyone in this room to do exactly the same. Submit talks to conferences, give back. When you learn things, share them with everyone. And when you learn that you failed in some way, share that with everyone too, because those are always the more awesome things. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. So first of all, I just want to contend the fact that there are really stupid questions. Like objectively, there are. If you don't think so, you've been saved
outside of my environment, perhaps.
If you don't think so, you've been really saved from some stuff.
I could contend that I'm quite stupid too, though.
So, but you don't think that Rudy wouldn't have done better in a bunny suit handing out candy, though, right?
I don't know. I think he needs to project some kind of aura, perhaps, like this one.
That with
yeah.
That with a bunny suit.
If honestly, like if criminals could see his teeth coming, I think perhaps they would be more afraid.
I think that was very interesting. Do we have any questions from the audience? First question gets a present. And we got one. And we got one. Good. So that's like the candy stuff, right?
I already know what this book is because I won this last year for asking a question.
Oh.
Which is why thank you so much, Sekti. You guys are amazing. Like this is.
You're welcome.
So how many people come into your office asking questions or just reporting stuff each and every day?
Reporting stuff is, I probably see 2 or 3 tickets a day. I would say we're mid-sized organizations, so maybe 600 people around the world and around 150 in Stockholm's a development environment, so maybe 150 people in Stockholm. People coming to my desk, at least 10. And that's, for a security team, I feel that's pretty good. People coming to, although I went to Kazakhstan recently and brought back some exotic candy, which was it's like the cultural equivalent of saltlakritz. It was these little white balls of horse milk and 52% salt, and it kind of dropped off after I had those. But they're all gone now, though, so it's going back up. But I feel it's a good number. I mean, I've been in some other organizations where the security team just locked away somewhere, and that's we're pretty front and center.
If you had to give an advice to somebody that is like on the other side, not the responsible of security, but the one that is supposed to be pointing faults and making people move, what would you recommend him to do?
And so what was the last bit?
If you had to give an
Yeah, it's better with a microphone.
I was going to repeat it anyway.
If you had to give advice to somebody that is on the other side, I mean, you are like on the side that tries to get things fixed. If you were on the side that has to point the issues and try to get people to fix them, what would you recommend people to do?
This is a great question. Essentially, what would I talk to a tester about? Yeah. I was a tester for 15 years. Like, I would tell myself, go into security. It's great. But it's difficult, because what you're talking about is trying to get perhaps non-technical people to see the risks and problems associated with any kind of particular decision, or with a bug. And in that case, you have to educate them, you have to try, make it as simple as possible, and try and communicate that this is a real risk if this were to happen. And if you do that, people are generally quite accepting. They appreciate the effort, for sure. And if you bring candy, then you can sway their mind a little bit, maybe. Those fizzy cola bottles are they're a hell of a drug.
Got more questions? Oh, all the way in the back. You have to run now, Jonas. Yeah, keep the hand up.
We got 14 minutes.
You're way ahead of schedule. It's very nice.
Ripped through it.
And after this is going to be lunch. I think people are hungry.
Let's not keep them waiting.
That's the one thing that we know about this place. It's awesome food every single time.
You were mentioning that if security weren't in the design in the beginning, it was too late and the design was poor. Have you experienced any change in this, where they come before, when they're designing the system, before, instead of just coming after having this, can you secure this system? Have you really experienced a change from these two situations?
Fortunately, yes. 3 weeks ago, somebody came to my desk and started asking me about, we're going to make this application that has to, people on the internet have to authenticate with us in some manner. And we whiteboarded it with candy the whole time. We were just drawing it and the whole time. And it was absolutely excellent. And that guy is, he's at the sort of upper limit of the bug bounty list now as well. Because he came to us. This is exactly the behavior we want to encourage. And it's what we saw as well. So yes, But the thing is, I know I'm not invited to all of the meetings. That's the sort of shadow part as well. Like, I don't know about that. But they know I'm available if they want me there. So to answer your question, it looks like it's working.
If you hand out candy for bugs and security problems, you think people do bugs and security problems for candy?
Now, as a tester,
I mean, if it's about leaving the door open.
as a tester, my whole life I've been given, here is a system, now figure out the problems with it. So when I made the rules at the beginning, I spent half a day trying to figure out problems with them. And in the small text, it does say, tickets created by us. Not just any ticket.
All right, fair enough.
Is there another question here?
Yeah. I think we need more than one person to run around with microphones.
So just a very practical question. You mentioned you had an office here in Stockholm and then several throughout the globe. So how do you manage the candy distribution over distances?
Something blockchain, I guess.
Okay.
We don't have it there, but it is part of my job is to go to the other offices, do security talks, and just like candy for everyone, bees. Oh, if I can hear you, I can shout to everyone. Sharing is caring. Yeah. Just in case you couldn't hear.
You can make your own can of candy with like the fortune cooking kind. Let's say, don't open that email. Like little notes inside. You can open them and you can stick little things in it.
Yeah. Oh, that's
good fortune comes at the end.
That's a Git repo waiting to happen. Yeah. But
maybe
I think
there's a business here.
One of the important things, like you said, oversized candy, then you can't just consume it all yourself, and then you have to give it to your team, and that's a good thing. I think one of the things that we want to do next, like what next after you've done this, I think we need to, bug bounties are really good for sweeping up all the low-hanging fruit, right? HackerOne they gave out $20 million for 50,000 bugs, which is $400 per bug. And some of these are remote code execution, some of them are XSS. That's incredible value for money. If you do that in your organization, then red teamers are going to have a real hell of a time. And all of our low-hanging fruit has probably been hoovered up as well. It's been going for a year and a half. So I think the next stage is definitely increasing the payouts, because that tends to bring in more reports.
No, that's it.
So, no toothpaste. It's Sweden, I trust you to take care of your teeth.
So yeah, you spoke of a development tool. I'm assuming it's some kind of IDE. Is it public, and what's it called?
I'm not sure how much I can say. I had to run this talk by a couple of people in my organization. Not a lawyer yet. And if I answer your question, perhaps I would be redacted. It's not an IDE, though. I can tell you it's not an IDE, but I probably can't tell you what it is.
Can you tell me what language it's used for, or anymore?
A human spoken language?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're done with questions? In that case, we're going to go to lunch. First of all, thank you so much, Hugo.